You're listening to CherryPickin Entertainment.
Throw me the ball and watch what I do with it.
You are now tuned into the Cherry Pickin Podcast with your host, Andre Cherry.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the Cherry Pickin Podcast. I'm your host, Andre Cherry, and we're already 3 weeks down in the college football season. Can you believe that? Already have 3 weeks in the bank. We've got week 4 staring right at us, and to get you ready for the action this upcoming week, I'll give you my podcast where we kind of recap some of the games from week 3, some of the bigger games that had my attention, and then I'll give you my top 5 locks straight up for week 4 action. So this is a little bit of a primer for the weekend's festivities this 4th week in the college football season. Before we kick off, do want to start off with a little bit of news. We had the Pac-12 news this past Thursday that the Pac-12 is expanding. The once left for dead Pac-12 conference is getting a revival for the 2026 season. If you recall, 10 of its teams left for other conferences beginning this season, which included Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, all to the Big 12. Then we had UCLA, USC, Washington, and Oregon to the Big 10, and Cal and Stanford departed to the ACC. So that's 10 teams in total. But an announcement broke last Thursday that the conference will welcome 4 teams from the Mountain West to join Oregon State and Washington State, the current lone survivors in the conference. And the following is coming from ESPN. The revived Pac-12 with Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State will launch in 2026, but the league needs to have at least 8 teams qualify for automatic inclusion into NCAA championships and the college football playoff. Asked whether the conference had seen any teams express interest in joining in the 48 hours after the realignment announcement, Oregon State Athletic Director Scott Barnes stated simply, "bunches." And he went on to say, "It's a lot like the processes we use to bring these foundational members in that the criteria will be very similar. We've already started in earnest with our first meeting yesterday to look at the landscape. There is great interest in this very early stage," Barnes said. He would love to see it wrapped up as soon as possible, he added, but certainly he says he wants to get it right, and I understand that. It's an exciting time. People thought the Pac-12 was left for dead. There's only 2 teams remaining right now, but it looks like they're adding 4 more teams into the fold, and I think those are good additions, the teams that they're looking to add. My buddy Devin, he's a big college football fan. I went to Illinois State with him. He's a big Illini fan. I was texting with him over the weekend. He said he would actually like to see UNLV in the conference. He also thinks Miami could be a good draw potentially, USF, or even UTSA. Could be a home run addition. So he's got some ideas for adding, at least 2 more teams to the conference. And then he also had something that was very interesting. He said he would also go back to the Arizona schools and Utah to see if they can get those schools in. And he said basically he was like, listen, Arizona State, Utah, if you come back and we're 9 solid and we can get Gonzaga for basketball, we're really going to be cooking with something really special. And the Big East used to do that back in the day as well. Like Villanova is a team that would play for basketball, but they didn't play football on the FBS level. DePaul even. That's got me kind of intrigued. The Pac-12 is back, got some upstart teams that I think have a lot of interest, certainly that have been good in the past, such as Boise State. Fresno State is always an interesting team, but I also like San Diego State. Not only for football, but basketball, they played at a high level as well. So if they can find 2 more teams to come into the fold, 2 more teams at least, I think the Pac-12 looks really good. I think almost like a Big 12 situation where people thought the Big 12 was left for dead. And the Big 12 has come back big time. They're making it competitive. And it's not everybody just waiting for the SEC and the Big 10 to kind of pluck teams off or pluck teams away. I like to see these conferences trying to beef up and trying to stay relevant in this new realignment era that we're living in. So it's going to be really interesting to see where the Pac-12 goes from here. I'm sure we will hear fairly soon, which teams are interested in coming over or which teams that may be coming over confirmed. But I think that's probably still a few weeks away. But it's exciting to hear that the Pac-12, where we once thought they were left for dead, is actually revived from the dead. And really curious to see what they're going to do here. So more to come in the Pac-12 realignment. Next, I want to talk about giving Missouri some respect. Through week 3 is still undefeated. They're still looking pretty good. They were ranked number 6 in the country coming into today's action. I'm recording this on Saturday night. But can we finally give the Tigers some respect? Can we respect their name? The 6th ranked Tigers beat number 24 Boston College on Saturday, a game that my little sister Andrea went to over the weekend. She's a proud Mizzou graduate. She sent me a picture of Memorial Stadium and the place looked absolutely packed. Missouri came from behind in this game. At one point, it was 14-3 in the second quarter, but the Tigers eventually won 27-21. Missouri quarterback Brady Cook went 21 for 30 passing for 264 yards and 1 touchdown. He was aided today by his running back, Nate Noel, who opened up the offense by rushing for 121 yards on 22 carries. In total, the offense posted 440 total yards. And regarding the win, and this comes from head coach Eli Drinkwitz from Missouri, and he says, and I quote, "Was not pretty, wasn't our best performance top to bottom, but really responded. We hadn't been challenged all year, and I was concerned with so many new faces about what that response would be. Today, I think you saw a team that's committed to each other, a team that responds, a team that's never out of it, that's never out of the fight," end quote. I think Eli Drinkwitz is a hell of a coach, and I was always a supporter of his when he came to Missouri a few years ago from App State several years ago. He's put Missouri on the map. Last season, the Tigers went 11-2. They finished ranked in the top 10 of the AP poll to end the season. This year, Missouri's undefeated and heads into SEC play with a lot of steam. People love to dunk on Missouri like they don't belong in the SEC. But I'm hoping the Tigers can prove a lot of people wrong again this season after their performance in 2023. This weekend, the Tigers welcome the Commodores into Como for a matchup that will be tougher than most people expected it would be coming into this season. Vandy is playing well so far this season and is looking for its first SEC win since the end of the 2022 season. It should be a fun game this weekend regardless. This is a game that you can't really overlook. I think Vandy comes into it with a lot of people, waiting to see what they can do this year. I mean, they beat Virginia Tech in an upset, and I do that with air quotes, victory, because Virginia Tech is expected to push for the ACC crown this season. So that was a hell of a win by Vanderbilt. But Missouri is a team that has done this before. At least they did it last season. So this is a team that has kind of got the goal in front of them. They know where they want to go in the SEC, and it begins this weekend against Vanderbilt in a game that will be closer than most people are expecting. Then we've got NC State versus La Tech. The 30-20 score in favor of NC State over La Tech may not reveal a whole much aside from the fact that the Wolfpack won. But let me tell you, NC State survived a scare today against Louisiana Tech. Before the start of the game today, I thought I saw that the Wolfpack were favored to win this by 20 points or something like that. But I knew it would be closer than that, just due to the fact that our offense, and I say our, like I play there, but that's my team, you know this. NC State's offense hasn't looked all that great through 3 weeks of football. The offense in particular has concerned me a great deal. Transfer quarterback Grayson McCall has not lived up to the hype through 3 weeks of play, and today he departed the game after a mysterious injury. I thought I saw something online that maybe he had some sort of concussion issue or something. I don't know, but I hope he is able to recover and gets better. Certainly you don't want anybody getting hurt. Seriously, I hope he's okay if he had an injury. But prior to him leaving the game today, McCall's stat line looked like this. He went 9 for 13 passing for 54 yards before true freshman quarterback C.J. Bailey stepped in and went 13 for 20 for 156 yards and 1 interception. Now, while Bailey didn't throw for a touchdown pass today, he did run one in. But the most important thing is that he kept drives alive and was able to throw and connect with his receivers downfield. During this game today, McCall looked like his timing was way off, and there were instances where he overthrew his receivers by a few feet. We weren't capitalizing on plays that should have been touchdowns when McCall was leading the charge for the Wolfpack. I assume at this point that the job is CJ Bailey's to lose. I'm recording this again on Saturday night, so I don't know what will happen. By the time you listen to this, I don't know if a decision will come and the coach decides to reinsert McCall. I would find that hard to believe, but I would probably say I'm probably more confident than I'm not that the job is CJ Bailey's to lose. I have concerns that we are going to struggle in the remaining games on our schedule this season, even including NIU in a few weeks, which pits head coach Dave Doran, a former NIU head coach, against Thomas Hammock, the hottest coach in college football through week 3. He's the current NIU head coach. Next week, NC State plays Clemson. My frustration with this team is that the league or the conference overall feels down. FSU continues to lose, and Clemson isn't as big and bad as it once was. This is a prime time for NC State to capitalize on the moment and try to climb up the ranks of the conference standings, but I feel like Doran has never been able to get the offense right, at least not in the last few seasons. This new quarterback, CJ Bailey, has a lot of promise. He's a true freshman, but is it too much to expect a true freshman to come in and save NC State's season? I am more disappointed in the coaching staff, if I'm being honest. But if Bailey can come in and perform a miracle this season and get NC State to the ACC championship game, it'll feel a lot like NC State's men's basketball team's run in the postseason last year. So anything is possible. Then we've got to talk about FSU and Memphis real quick here. If today's 20-12 loss to Memphis told us anything about FSU, it's that the Seminoles are going to be in a world of hurt this season. Not that we didn't expect that after week 1, but it's really painful to see it play out in real time week after week. The team looks like a shell of its former self, the offense can't get anything going, and it feels like DJU, the quarterback for Florida State who transferred in, the fact that he came back to the ACC and is with Florida State, I feel like it may have been a bad move for himself and for the Seminoles. He's only completing 58% of his passes right now through 3 weeks of action. And the defense is also struggling this season, so I can't put it all on the quarterback play, but things overall don't look good down there in Tallahassee right now. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic when I say this, but the Noles may not win a game this season until possibly October 18th against Duke, or it may be not even until November 23rd against Charleston Southern. It's not a gimme that they'll beat Duke, especially with Manny Diaz as Duke's head coach. Diaz began his coaching career at FSU under legend Bobby Bowden, and I'm sure there is nothing more he'd like to do than beat FSU in that meeting. If FSU goes on a long losing streak this season, I think Norvell probably loses his job, even despite the fact they were so highly regarded last year, one of the better teams in college football. They just missed out on the playoffs, as we all know. I think that all goes away if Norvell has a losing streak this season and doesn't win until late in October or late in November. So his job is warming up pretty good right now. I would say Deion Sanders could be a good candidate for the job. You get to bring home a former FSU great, but I think he's going to have a losing season again this year at Colorado, where it feels like there are a few superstars on the team, such as Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. But outside of that, it doesn't feel as if the team is really working well together. I don't know if the culture that Deion Sanders is trying to infuse in Colorado is really meshing well right now. And I have really strong doubts if he's a good leader of men. I don't really know. But I guess we'll have to wait and see how the season kind of unfolds here for Colorado. But I just know that may be a name that you'll hear circulating around college football, that maybe they can bring Deion Sanders back. He certainly is a flashy hire. Definitely will attract some talent and attention. But I don't know if it moves FSU in the right direction. So that's a whole mess. It'll be interesting to see what Florida State does to respond after 3 straight losses. But man, that is a crazy turn of events for Florida State after the success they had last season. It doesn't make me feel good that Florida State is winless right now in the ACC, because that's a team that you need to kind of boost up the conference. And if Florida State is down, Clemson is down, it's another down year for the ACC in football, which is unfortunate. And then real quick, before we take a quick timeout, LSU survived against South Carolina late in the fourth quarter after the Gamecocks missed a field goal in the fourth quarter. They were going to send it to overtime, but the Gamecocks kicker missed the field goal, and LSU came from behind from a 17-0 deficit to win the game 36-33 on the road in Columbia, South Carolina. College game day was out there. The stadium looked packed. The vibe looked wild. Like it looked like a good time down there in Columbia. And I was pulling for the Gamecocks to get the win. They were playing really tough, but they just couldn't hold on. They could not hold on. So it's a great win for Brian Kelly and his LSU Tigers, who desperately needed the win to stay relevant in SEC play. But I think it's going to be a long season for the Tigers this year, and can't wait to follow them this season. Brian Kelly's seat's probably warm as well after that USC loss in week 1. But right now I'm going to take a quick break. So don't go anywhere. The Cherry Pickin' Podcast will be right back. When I come back, I will give you my top 5 straight up locks for week 4 action. Don't go anywhere. Cherry Pickin' Podcast will be right back.
Then we'll do it.
That's
like
good.
That. Okay, cool.
So who says what?
So I'm
We're
saying
a podcast. You say that?
So I'm saying 5. Beth.
4, 3,
2, 1. Hey there, I'm Dave.
I'm Beth. And I'm Veronica.
And we are the Happy Hour. We're a podcast dedicated to the most decorated NHL franchise of all time, the Montreal Canadiens.
A casual listen by Habs fans for Habs fans.
We have new episodes every week, so have a listen.
Bye.
Basketball is back. And with that comes joy, tension, heartbreak, buzzer beaters, and elation. It's time to be courtside for every one of those moments, no matter where your team is playing. Short Court specializes in making replica and custom basketball courts for your home, office, sports cave to decorate your walls with all those memories. If you have a picture, we can recreate it. Featured in the 2021 UniWatch Holiday Gift Guide, short courts are made using real wood. We frame and give them an epoxy finish to protect the new centerpiece of your memorabilia collection. With previous customers including Northern Kentucky University, Southern Utah University, 199 Apparel, The Perimeter Podcast with Adam Morrison, and many more celebrating the careers and retirements of their coaches, it's time you visit shortcourts.com for more info and a gallery of our work, or you can send us an email, info@shortcourts.com. Be sure to find us on social media, just search for Short Courts. It's time to bring the home court home.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Right now, before we get out of here, I want to give you my top 5 locks for week 4 action. We'll start in the ACC. I'm taking Clemson over NC State, and it pains me to do that. My heart wants to say NC State will win, but I find it hard to believe that NC State will beat Clemson on the road. The offensive struggles continue to plague this team, most notably around the quarterback position. It looks like true freshman quarterback CJ Bailey will most likely be the starter moving forward, but I still think it's a lot to ask for a true freshman, to come in and lead the team to victory. After all, Clemson is 63-3 at home these last 10 years of play. Can you believe that? 63 wins to only 3 losses in 10 seasons. That's insane. Additionally, the Tigers have won the last 8 times they've hosted NC State, so history is not really on NC State's side. I just don't feel confident that NC State knows what it's doing right now. I think CJ Bailey has a lot of pressure on him, unfortunately, just because I feel like the coaching staff has kind of failed the offense. If I'm being honest, that's just my opinion. I don't think they've gotten it right the last few seasons. I'm disappointed that they plug and play these transfer quarterbacks thinking that they're going to save the day, but we've seen time and time again that these quarterbacks really aren't that good, if I'm being blunt. And I'm hoping CJ Bailey can pull through a miracle this weekend, but I will take Clemson on paper over NC State in the ACC. In the Big 12, I'm taking West Virginia over Kansas. West Virginia and Kansas both lost some heartbreakers last weekend in week 3 and are both 1-2 entering into week 4 action. KU has lost the last 2 games by a touchdown or less. Jayhawks quarterback Jalen Daniels hasn't looked like himself so far this season. He's thrown critical turnovers in each of his last 3 games. His performance is going to need to improve mightily if the Jayhawks are going to have any shot of surviving in Big 12 play this season. However, I give the edge to West Virginia in this matchup next weekend at home against Kansas. I think they're hungry for a win. They had a tough loss against Penn State in week 1. They lost a very close game against Pittsburgh in the backyard brawl in week 3, a game which they had been leading, I thought, for most of the game, and I turned away. And when I turned back, I saw that the Panthers had beaten up on West Virginia at the end to win the game there. But heartbreaking loss, but I'm taking West Virginia over Kansas. Then in the Big Ten, I'm taking Washington over Northwestern. This is Washington's inaugural game in the Big Ten against Chicago's Big Ten team, Northwestern. Chicago's Big Ten team. I think the Huskies get the win, but in order to do so, they'll need to get more discipline entering into Big Ten play. Last weekend against Washington State, the Huskies were penalized 16 times for 135 yards in the heartbreaking Apple Cup loss. Washington State is going to need to clean that behavior up against Northwestern, Chicago's Big Ten team, if it expects to win its first game in Big Ten play. So I'm taking Washington over Northwestern. In the Pac-12, I'm taking Washington State over San Jose State. The Cougars lead this series 8-4-1 all time. And while this could be a ripe matchup for an upset after Washington State's exciting 24-19 Apple Cup victory over Washington last weekend, I don't think the Cougars let off the gas in week 4. I think those Cougars will win big against San Jose State in week 4. Then in the SEC, I'm taking Tennessee over Oklahoma. This is Oklahoma's first SEC game. The Sooners are 3-1 in this series, with the last meeting coming back in 2015. This game, though, this upcoming weekend, will be a bit of a homecoming for Volunteers head coach Josh Heupel, who, if you're around my age or older, you remember he was a starter at quarterback for the Sooners. He was very good, and he was on the coaching staff for about a decade in Norman. So this is going to be a very big game, probably emotional game for Josh Heupel. Tennessee looks good. They are rolling through 3 weeks of action. I think they're going to win big against Oklahoma, and they're going to fight on to see another day. So there we have it. Those are my top 5 locks for week 4 action. I'll run it down for you one more time. In the ACC, Clemson over NC State. In the Big 12, West Virginia over Kansas. In the Big 10, Washington over Northwestern. In the Pac-12, Washington State over San Jose State. And in the SEC, Tennessee over Oklahoma. Well, there we have it, my friends. That was my week 3 recap, week 4 preview. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it got you ready for college football action this weekend. Thank you so much for downloading this episode. I hope you have a great week upcoming, and I hope you enjoy college football this upcoming Saturday. I will talk to you all again sometime very, very soon in the near future. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a friend, and thank you for being you. I'll talk to y'all. Have a good one. Peace. Thank you again for tuning into my Cherry Pickin' podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to subscribe to my show and drop me a rating on Apple Podcasts. All of my digital content can be found at the website CherryPickin sports.com. And if you are looking to interact with me via social media, my Twitter handle is @Cherry_Pickin. That's PICKIN. On my Twitter, you'll also find a link to my blog where I post my weekly college football predictions and analysis. I can also be reached via email at CherryPickinsports@gmail.com. Please feel free to reach out to me regarding what you like about this podcast or about what content you'd like to hear more of on future episodes. I sincerely thank you for your support, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Take care.